Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world where all illegal drugs, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, LSD, ecstasy, even fentanyl, are no longer criminalized. No drug arrests, no black market dealers, and no war on drugs. Instead, every substance that once carried prison time for possession is now available legally, albeit under strict regulation. Sounds like a dystopia to some. To others, a bold step toward progress. But what would actually happen if all illegal drugs were legalized? In this video, we'll explore the societal, economic, political, and public health consequences, both positive and negative, of such a world-shifting move. We'll look at historical case studies, model projections, and the philosophies driving both sides of the debate. This is not an endorsement. It's a deep dive into one of the most controversial ideas in modern policy. Let's begin by understanding why drugs are illegal in the first place. The criminalization of drugs didn't begin purely as a health policy. It was often rooted in racism, xenophobia, and political fear. In the early 20th century, U.S. laws against opium were fueled by anti-Chinese sentiment. Cocaine was linked to Black Americans in the South. Marijuana was associated with Mexican immigrants. The global war on drugs, spearheaded in the 1970s, wasn't just about protecting people. It was about control. Today, more than 270 million people worldwide use drugs. And millions are incarcerated or killed because of drug policies that haven't stopped consumption. They've just shifted it into the shadows. So what if we change course? One of the strongest arguments for legalization is that it could make drug use safer. Right now, illegal drugs are often laced with unknown, deadly substances. Fentanyl, in particular, has been a silent killer, cut into everything from heroin to fake Xanax. Legalization would allow for regulated production. Just like alcohol and tobacco, drugs could be manufactured with known dosages, ingredients, and safety warnings. People would know exactly what they're taking. No mystery powder, no contaminated pills. Take Portugal, for example. In 2001, Portugal decriminalized all drugs, not legalized but removed criminal penalties for possession of small amounts. What happened? Drug-related deaths dropped. HIV transmission plummeted. Treatment rates went up. Contrary to critics' fears, drug use did not skyrocket. If drugs were fully legalized, not just decriminalized, governments could go even further. Safe consumption sites, education programs, subsidized rehab, tax revenue could fund addiction services instead of prisons. That brings us to the big fear. Would more people use drugs if they were legal? That's the common concern, that suddenly heroin would be sold like beer and the streets would flood with addicts. But the evidence is mixed. Countries that have liberalized drug laws, like the Netherlands with cannabis, haven't seen massive spikes in use. Social norms and education often matter more than legality. It's possible that curiosity-driven use might increase temporarily after legalization. But heavy problematic use might not change much, or could even decline if people are educated and supported, rather than criminalized and imprisoned. Now let's talk economics. The global war on drugs costs an estimated $100 billion a year. That's money spent on enforcement, incarceration, border patrols, and military operations. In the US alone, over 1.5 million people are arrested each year for drug violations, many of them for simple possession. Legalizing drugs would free up that money. Fewer arrests, less burden on courts, less overcrowding in prisons. Police could focus on violent crime and trafficking that harms others, not what individuals choose to put in their bodies. Then there's the revenue. Legal cannabis already generates billions in tax dollars for states like Colorado and California. If all drugs were legalized and taxed, some analysts estimate it could generate over $100 billion globally each year. That money could fund public health, education, and harm reduction programs. Imagine using the taxes from legal cocaine sales to fund rehab centers or community clinics. It sounds surreal, but it might work. However, legalization wouldn't be simple. You can't just open a heroin store on every corner and expect society to function. Regulation would be key. Governments would have to decide who gets to sell, Who produces it? What are the limits for purchase? How do we prevent marketing to children? How do we ensure quality control? It might look like the alcohol model, licensed shops, age restrictions, and clear packaging. Or like prescription medication, controlled substances distributed by health professionals. There's also the risk of commercialization. If big pharma or large corporations get involved, they could prioritize profit over safety. We've seen how the opioid epidemic was fueled by legal companies pushing dangerous pills under the guise of medicine. The same could happen with legalized recreational drugs if oversight isn't airtight. Would legalizing drugs end the black market? In theory, yes. If drugs are cheap, legal, and safe, people have no reason to buy them from shady dealers. Cartels would lose a major source of income. Violence could drop dramatically. But in reality, it's complicated. In Mexico, cartels make billions from drug trafficking, but they also traffic humans, steal fuel, and engage in extortion. Legalizing drugs might weaken them, but not eliminate them. Plus, if taxes make legal drugs expensive, a black market could still thrive for cheaper, untaxed versions. So pricing and regulation need to strike a balance between safety and accessibility. Social justice is another huge piece of the puzzle. The war on drugs has disproportionately affected people of color, especially in the United States. Black Americans are far more likely to be arrested and imprisoned for drug offenses, despite using drugs at similar rates as whites. Legalization could begin to repair this damage. Imagine clearing criminal records for past drug offenses, releasing non-violent drug offenders from prison, investing tax revenue from drug sales into communities most harmed by prohibition. It's not just about legalizing drugs, it's about correcting historical injustices. But let's be honest, there are real risks too. Legal drugs like alcohol and tobacco already cause immense harm. Drunk driving, liver disease, cancer, these are normalized risks we've come to accept. Adding heroin or meth to that list could make public health challenges more complex. Even with regulation, some people will abuse drugs. Overdose deaths might still occur. Families could still suffer. No system is perfect. There's also the cultural impact. Would legalization change how we see addiction? Would it normalize dangerous behaviors? Could it send the message that anything goes? These are real concerns. Legalization must be paired with massive public education campaigns about the risks, the limits, the realities of drug use. In a fully legalized drug landscape, we might see fewer people in prison, safer regulated drug use, lower rates of overdose and disease, a weakened black market and reduced cartel violence, new tax revenue funding health and education, and social equity initiatives to correct past harms. But we'd also need strict regulation and quality control. Accept the possibility of increased experimentation, guard against corporate abuse, and address the continuing challenges of addiction. Ultimately, legalizing all illegal drugs would be one of the most radical social experiments in modern history. It wouldn't fix everything overnight. It would create new challenges even as it solves old ones. But it might finally shift our approach from punishment to compassion, from control to care, from fear to facts. In the end, we have to ask, has the war on drugs really worked? Or is it time to imagine something different? Because no matter where you stand on this issue, one thing is clear. The current system is broken. Thanks for watching. If you found this video thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of complex global issues. And let us know in the comments, should all drugs be legalized? What do you think would happen?